Welcome back. SUMIFS, COUNTIFS, and AVERAGEIFS are great formulas to use when you have a large data set with multiple criterias. These functions are available in Microsoft Office 2016 and Microsoft Office 365. These are extension of SUMIF, COUNTIF, and AVERAGEIF formulas available in earlier versions of Excel. Let us discuss how to use these functions with example. Here we have revenues and profits of three different segments across different geographies. We want to use the SUMIFS function so that we can get the revenue or profit of the country selected. So if we select Canada, we get the total revenue of Canada across all the three different segments. To use the SUMIFS function, type is equal to SUMIFS and bracket open. So the first syntax to use the SUMIFS function is the sum range. Sum range is the amount which we want to total. So I'll select column E and then press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key to select the entire data range. Then press comma. The second requirement for using the SUMIFS function is criteria range 1. So criteria range 1 is whether we want to sum the revenue or profit for Canada. So criteria 1 is revenue, which is the description in column D. So we will click on column D and then press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key to select the entire range. Press comma. The third requirement is definition of criteria 1. So criteria 1 is the revenue here. Press comma and then criteria 2 and beyond are in square brackets. So these are optional. So if we have just one criteria, we can give the range for criteria 1, and then close bracket and enter. But here we have multiple criteria. So the second criteria range is the country which we want to select. So we will select column C and then press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key again to select the entire range. Press comma. Now it is asking for criteria 2. So criteria 2 is the selected country. Now close the bracket and then enter. So we get the revenues for Canada, which is 4,255. If we want to check whether the SUMIFS is working correct, we can select the revenues for Canada for all the three segments. So I'll select 700 plus 550 plus 3005. So I get 4255, which is the sum for Canada. If we want to see the profit for Canada, select the profit. And we see that total profit for Canada is 475 across all three segments. We can change the country from Canada to Africa or Europe. Also change the description from revenue to profit of any country for which we want to see the performance. So this is how we can use the SUMIFS function. Let's look at another example. So here we have three criteria. The first is the revenue or the profit which we want to see. Second is the country. Here we want to see the sum of revenues of three segments where the revenue is greater than 1000. So to use the SUMIFS function, again we will type is equal to SUMIFS and then give the sum range, which is same as in example 1, comma. Then criteria 1 is the revenue or profit. So I'll select column D and then press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key to select the entire range, comma. Criteria 1 is the revenue, comma. Then criteria 2 is the country range. So I'll select the region and then select the entire region by pressing Ctrl Shift and down arrow key, comma. Select the country. Now for the third criteria, we want to only select the segments where the revenue is greater than 1000. So the criteria belongs to column E. Again select column E, press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key, and then give the third criteria, which is column I. Bracket close, enter. Revenues for USA is 8750. So if we want to check it, I'll select the revenues which is greater than 1000. So in case of US, revenue is greater than 1000 across all three segments. So the revenue is 8750. But if I select Canada, so Canada revenue is less than 1000 for segment 1. For segment 2, it is 550. And for segment 3, it is 3005. So there's only one segment with revenue greater than 1000. So that's why we get a sum of 3005 because it has excluded the other two segments. This is how we can use the SUMIFS function with multiple text as well as numeric criteria. Now moving to the COUNTIFS function. So here we want to count the number of segments where the revenue is greater than 1000 for the selected country. To use the COUNTIFS function, I'll type is equal to COUNTIFS, bracket open. It is asking for criteria range 1. So criteria range 1 is the revenue or profit. So I'll select column D, comma, then criteria 1 is the revenue. Criteria 2 is the country. So we'll select column C, Control Shift and down arrow key to select the entire range, comma, and then criteria 2, which is selected country. The third criteria is if the revenue or profit is greater than 1000. So we'll select the amount, press Ctrl Shift and down arrow key to select the range, comma, and then give the third criteria, which is if the revenue or profit is greater than 1000, bracket close and enter. So here we can see that the revenue for Canada greater than 1000 is just only for one segment, which we saw in our previous example. If I change the country from Canada to USA, we get the count as 3 because all the three segments are having revenues greater than 1000. So this is how we can use the COUNTIFS function with multiple criteria. If instead of 1000, I type just 1000 over here and press enter, we get 0 because in this case, Excel wants to select only the countries where the revenues is exactly 1000. So it is giving a 0 for COUNTIFS. So if we want to edit this formula, we have to press F2. And for the third criteria, if we want to enter the criteria within the formula, so within inverted brackets, I'll type greater than, close inverted brackets, and then enter. So this is an alternate way how we can use the greater than or smaller than feature with COUNTIFS or SUMIFS function. Now, moving to the AVERAGEIFS. So taking the same example, we want to see the average profit of the country selected. To use the AVERAGEIFS function, type AVERAGEIFS, bracket open, select the average range, which is column E, Control Shift and down arrow key to select the entire range, then comma. The criteria range 1 is similar to how we use in the SUMIFS function. So select column D and then Control Shift and down arrow key to select the entire range, then comma. Criteria 1 is in cell G16, so link cell G16 to it, then comma. Criteria 2 is the region, so select column C and then Control Shift and down arrow key to select the range, then comma, and then give the criteria 2. then bracket close and enter. So we get the average profit for Europe, which is 260. If we want to check it, we can select the profit of Europe for all the three segments and then see the average, which is 260. So the formula is working fine. One point to note or keep in mind for all these three functions that the range has to be in sync. So if the first range is E4 to E51, the other ranges also have to be same. So here we have E4 to E51 and D4 to D51 and C4 to C51. Similarly, in the SUMIFS function and COUNTIFS function also, we had used the similar range. So the ranges has to be in sync for all the criterias and the range for which we are using the SUMIFS or the AVERAGEIFS function. That's it in this session. Thank you.